Hello and welcome to the Stew with JT Brew on the Dynasty Pros Football Channel. Today we are breaking down the NFL schedule and we predict the win-loss records for every team. And we talk about what Vegas has them at, the over-unders, who do we like, who do we not. It all begins now on the Stew.
You up on trades and why you move, you ain't designed to lose. Find you jumping over seemingly nothing, racking up points, makes the game a little more fun to watch. Can drop release, we started with the mock draft and now we making a mockery of the leaderboard. Quite obviously not a scrub, so started institute, make evaluations like a commissioner do. It's to the point your wife make you watch in a different room. Update your roster and pick and choose when you get some news. Not much that we enjoy more than sipping brew, sifting through new statistics to make it to our end zones through different routes. Universities, institutes, down to homies who clicking groups. I introduce you to the Stew with JT Brew.
Let's jump on to the NFC West here. They're playing the NFC East and the AFC North. This West division could be an absolute shit show this year, to be honest with you. I don't know what to do with any of these teams. Arizona Cardinals are the first team up. They're plus 2,500 just to win the division. So that's awful. Their over-under is at 4.5. DraftKings right now has them minus 130 for the over. FanDuel's not as generous. They're at minus 106. The under 4.5 is DraftKings at plus 110. FanDuel at minus 114. 4 wins is a low number. Unless they bring Kyle Murray back and he plays out of his mind, and even if he comes back, I don't know if it's going to make a difference. I got this team at 2-15, John. I think they're terrible. I think they're possibly the worst team in the NFL, especially without Kyler Murray. Them and the Texans, for me, are going to be battling it out. I like C.J. Stroud better than whoever's going to be playing for the Cardinals at quarterback. I think this team's 2-15. I'm hammering the under at plus 110.
I don't know how this team fell off the track so bad, but I just feel like they just completely derailed, and It's a shit show. And I got them at 3-14, and that, that's that. I feel pretty confident about that being their record. I honestly feel that if they're losing halfway through the season, they're just going to sit Kyler Murray the rest of the season and move on from him after this year. I trade him away. Do something, try to get rid of him, try to start from scratch across the board. Because that's really they don't like Murray. They embarrass themselves for putting that shit in their contract. He doesn't like it here. He's already voiced that. Hopkins wants out. He says, I might be back, or who said I'm leaving? They're going to get rid of him too. Rondell Moore's, and I think over time we've noticed he's better than average wide receiver. But who's starting the season off here? Colt McCoy, Clayton Tune. What is this? How is the season going to start? And their defense isn't that good, so I don't know what's going to happen here. But this team is a disaster.
It's a disaster. It's a disaster. It doesn't feel like it's getting any better anytime soon. If you look at Vegas, the point spreads right now, they have this team. Not only are they not favored in one single game this year, not one. They are not favored to win one game. They are a 4-point up to a double-digit dog in almost half their games.
Wow, good. They should.
That's bad. The best they have, they're 1.5 point dog in 2 games and a 2-point dog in a third game. Every other game, they're 4 points or higher. This team, everything says this team's going to be bad. And I'm with you. If this team gets off to an awful start, there's no way you bring Kyler Murray back and throw him in mid-season on a team that's like 0-8. I just don't see what the point would be. I just don't see you do it. I think this team has number 1 pick written all over it. I think if they get the number 1 pick, they're going to have to figure out some way to move Kyler Murray so they can draft Caleb Williams.
That's the goal. That's the goal right there.
I think that's about the best you could do if you're the Cardinals right now. Be as bad as you can be. Just suck it up. Kyler getting hurt might have been the blessing in disguise for this team because he might have kept them relevant. Now they can just full-on tank. I think this team, I'm going to be betting against this team all year. I have a feeling by the end of the year, the spreads are not going to be high enough. Vegas is going to be pushing the spread so high, they're going to be trying to force you to take Arizona, and people will still be taking the other team at minus 14, minus 15 points. So I think this team is going to be bad.
Yeah.
Staying in the West, we jump down to the Rams, another team coming off Super Bowl a couple years ago. Everyone got hurt last year. They traded everybody in the offseason. Rams are plus 750 to win the division on DraftKings, 650 on FanDuel. The line's sitting at 6.5 right now for them. They feel like that's a pretty solid line. DraftKings has it at minus 110, FanDuel minus 102. Under is at minus 110 and minus 122. John, this is another team I just was struggling to find wins because I just don't know what to do with this team. Stafford, if he comes back, is healthy, plays better. Could he steal some wins with Cooper Kupp? That O-line's still pretty terrible. They lost a handful of really good defensive players. I just don't see a lot of wins on the board for the Rams this year.
I got it at 4-13. It's a tough schedule, and this team it'd be smart just to let Stafford walk away from the game, kind of say, "Hey, man, you're done. You're all beat up. It is what it is. Thanks for winning the Super Bowl for us, but here's a nice foo-foo drink and a Hawaiian shirt. Go, enjoy retirement. Let Kupp go. Trade Kupps to a contender. Let Aaron Donald he's contemplating retirement every year anyway. I don't know if it's a money thing or he's just kind of sick of football, whatever the deal may be. But if he wants to play, bring him to somewhere else, and he really needs one of the best defensive linemen in the league. Even at even where he's at right now, he's still fantastic. But you don't need a guy like that on a team that sucks. You need to start rebuilding. So get tons of draft picks, whatever you can get money off your roster, get draft picks, even 2 years down the road from now, because you got a lot of rebuilding to do for this Rams team. They accomplished their goal, win the Super Bowl. That's great, but everybody knew what the price they sold their soul to the devil to get where they're at. Last year, 2 years ago, and now that the payments they made to win that Super Bowl are cashing in right now. They just got to go to the bare bottom scraps of the ship and start from scratch. So 4-13 is where I'm at, and it's going to get worse from here.
Yeah, and I'm struggling to get them to 4 wins. I am all over the under here. The fact that you can get the under 6.5 at minus 110 to me is just stealing right now.
Yeah.
I just feel like that's stealing. I'm surprised that number's not at like minus 140, minus 150. I really am. I'm jumping all over. I'm putting money on the under on the Rams. I just looking at their schedule, again, they're another one of those. I don't think they're just an absolute horrible team, but the schedule does not line up well for them. They play all their tough teams at home, like the teams that are maybe they could beat. They play a lot of those teams on the road, which they're not going to be favored in. They're just one of those teams I don't know. I just can't find myself liking the Rams in a lot of situations this year. Looking at the spreads, it's right in the middle. They have a lot of games that are -1, +1 games throughout their schedule. So, again, I think they have a lot of toss-up games. But I'm just one of those teams, if you get near the end of the year, and a lot of their toss-up games are near the end of the year, and you're already pretty bad, what incentive do you have to keep playing as hard as you can and get 4 wins instead of 3 or 5 wins instead of 4? I just think the under is where I'm at on this team.
Yeah.
Favorite in this division, San Francisco 49ers, one of the bigger favorites to win their division. They're minus 150 and DraftKings 175 on FanDuel. Over under on them sitting at 10.5, minus 120 on DraftKings. On the other side, FanDuel actually has moved the win line up to 11.5 and actually giving you points. So they're doing 11.5 at plus 118. The under on DraftKings 10.5 is plus 100. FanDuel 11.5 at minus 144. So this is one where a lot of people, again, the quarterback situation is going to kind of figure out and decide what's going to happen here on this team. I could see it going a lot of different ways. There's a lot of situations where I think this team wins a lot of games. They also have a difficult schedule. If they have the QB problems, injuries last year, you could see it falling apart. But, man, even with all the things that happened last year, this team still won games. John, before I throw out my crazy win total for this team, let me see what you had.
It's probably not crazier than mine. I'm 13-4, but that's I'm just saying, hear me out. If Sam Darnold gets the opportunity to start this season out, and he's a pretty damn good quarterback around a pretty damn good team, if he gets the opportunity to start out here and is on a roll, and they keep Sam Darnold in there, and he keeps his job, I think he's a missing piece that would keep this team, that would put this team in contention in the NFC Championship with the Eagles to see which one of these teams would go to the Super Bowl from the NFC. If Brock Purdy comes in, that's great. But I honestly think that Sam Darnold's a better quarterback than Brock Purdy. Now, that just may be me being crazy, but I got him at 13-4. Where are you at?
I agree with John. I think if Darnold gets the starting job, I I don't know if I can go with a high enough wins. I think this team's going to be great if he gets to start. I think he's better than Purdy, but I also think Purdy or Lance, either one of these teams, I just think this team is set up. It's a QB-friendly system. I think their defense is great. I love this defense. I had him at 14-3, and I can't believe I had him at 14-3. I think this team, I think 13-4, like you said, is reasonable. I think 12 is reasonable. I can see why FanDuel jumped it up to 11.5 from 10.5 because I think 10.5 is way too low. I'm all over. I'll pay the extra minus 120 on FanDuel. Excuse me, the minus 120 on DraftKings. I'll pay that at 10.5 over. This team to me gets to 11. I mean, you'd have to have the wheels fall off for this team not to get to 11 wins, I feel like. It's just the schedule sets up well for them. They get a lot of the tough games at home. Just the way the division's playing, I don't like the division. They just don't have a ton of really difficult non-conference games. One of the hardest games is at Jacksonville, and I actually had one of their losses at Jacksonville. They're at the Eagles, which I actually had them winning at the Eagles. I had them getting upset by the Seahawks. I had them winning at home against the Ravens. Every tough team they have, Giants they got at home. They're on the road at the Steelers, at the Rams, winnable games. They got the Giants at home. They got the Cowboys at home. They're at the Browns and Vikings. I could see them losing one of those games, tripping up there, but they're going to be favored in both those. They get the Bengals at home. So, again, they got a lot of I just think this team, even though the schedule, they've got some of those higher-end teams, even if they go 500 against the higher-end teams, again, that's only 2 or 3 losses for them. I'm taking the over on 10.5 all day long on this team. I think they're a minimum 11-win team. And like you said, John, I think we're both more in that 13-14-win team for this team.
Man, you got the Seahawks 2 out of 3 weeks in a row smoking the 49ers. I don't see that happening.
I just see, and again, I'm going back and looking at it now. I think what I would do is I'd change one of those, and I might, between the Browns, Vikings, Bengals stretch, I'd maybe have them losing one of those games, possibly. Maybe that Bengals game at home. I could see it. Like I said, I struggle to get them to the 3 or 4 losses.
Right.
I mean, I just really liked them in all those games, and a lot of those matchups. I like the way they matched up with those teams. I had them winning at Philly. I think that could be a loss. That could be one of those losses. But they are favored. If you look at Vegas right now on those spreads, they are favored in every game but one.
I honestly think that the biggest trip up game in this schedule is the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys just have some way somehow of like outgunning people when the games they're not supposed to win, they win. And that's the one I would take probably both of those Seahawks games away, give them W and give one of the L's to the Cowboys.
Yeah, it's crazy because I was looking here. It looks like I misspoke. The Niners. Let's see here, San Francisco. Let me look at this again. They are favored in every game but the Eagles game. They're 2.5-point dog to the Eagles. They're favored in every other game. So I think I can see them slipping up, like you said, the Cowboys. I could see, 1 or 2 here because they do have a tough schedule. But I think any of those QBs play. I think any of those guys play and they play decent. I think this team wins a ton of games.
2.5 to the Eagles. That means that they think they're a better team than the Eagles are.
And that's exactly because they're 2.5 on the road.
Yeah.
So and that's what I'm saying. I actually think they could win that game. I think it's more of a revenge game for them. I think they're going to be fired up. I think it's going to be a really good game. But I could see them winning that game. I just think it really works out for them. Even last game, third to last game of the year, they get the Ravens. They get the Ravens at home. Yeah. So I like it. They get the Bengals at home. The toughest game they got is the Eagles on the road. So I really like that. I think they're a 13-14 win team. Here's another team that's going to be interesting to see what people think about. Seattle Seahawks. They're plus 200 to win the division, plus 260 on FanDuel. Over right now is 8.5. They're feeling the over at minus 130 on DraftKings, minus 132 on FanDuel. Unders plus 110 and plus 106. John, I feel like that 8.5 is right in the wheelhouse. I feel like that 8.5 is in the wheelhouse. I had them at 9 and 8, but I definitely feel like 8 and 9, 9 and 8 it feels like where they should be.
I got him at 8 and 9. That's just me, but I had JSN is a great addition to this passing game. And I think Zach Charbonnet is a better all-around running back than Ken Walker, to be honest with you. That's just what I think. I mean, everybody's got their own opinions. But that being said, I hate Pete Carroll. And you know that, and I think everybody knows that. But I'm rooting for him to lose every game this season. But unfortunately, they got to win some games. They're 8 and 9, and that's a me hating Pete Carroll 8 and 9. So I can see them being 9 and 8 or 10 and 7, to be honest with you. I probably more like 9 and 8, but 8 and 9 is me being a jerk to Pete Carroll. So it's 8 and 9 or 9 and 8 is right where I feel they belong.
Yep, I'm on with you. If I'm betting, I'm taking the under just because I'd rather take the plus 110 under 8.5 than the minus 130 on the over. I just think this team kind of outplayed its actual talent last year. Geno played out of his mind at the beginning of the year. I think Geno's decent. I don't even think he can replicate last year. He started falling off big time near the end of the year. I think they're going to be a decent team. I think they're going to be a tough win at Seattle. I think it's going to be, like always, a tough place to go to. But I just don't love this team. I had initial thoughts, had them at 9 and 8. I probably lean more 8 and 9, like you said.
Right.
You up on trades and why you move. You ain't designed to lose. Find you jumping over seemingly nothing. Racking up points makes the game a little more fun to watch. Can drop release. We started with the mock draft and now we making a mockery up.